Welcome everyone to a new update from the International Commission of Jurists on how the COVID-19 pandemic has actually impacted on human rights and the rule of law in several countries across the world. My name is Massimo Frigo. I'm Senior Legal Advisor with the ICJ, and today I'm really thrilled to be joined by the Supreme Court Justice Radmila Dragicevic-Dicic and our ICJ Vice President. Radmila has a long history in the judiciary of Serbia. She founded the Association of Judges of Serbia, and for that and many actions in defense of the rule of law, she actually was dismissed even by the regime of Slobodan Milosevic, just to be reinstated then when the regime fell. And she made important contributions by working in the special chambers of organized crime and up to the Supreme Court. So we are talking really to the right person to know what's going on with the rule of law in Serbia. Radmila, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and greetings to all listeners. I will try to describe shortly what was the situation during this COVID-19, which still is here, but we are now out of state of emergency. In Serbia, the situation was like that the state of emergency was proclaimed on March 15th, but it was proclaimed without decision of national parliament. We have in the constitution, there's one article that says that if constitution cannot meet because of some extraordinary circumstances, then the government with the to subscribe of the president of the state can proclaim the state of emergency. So that's how the state of emergency was proclaimed in Serbia. And so after that, the government was issuing different decrees about different issues that were to be set during this pandemic. And the main was, if we don't talk at the beginning about judiciary, how it was for citizens, it was pretty strict, especially for the citizens who were more than 65, which I missed a little. They were not allowed to leave the house completely. It was just complete curfew. And then there were lots of complaints about that because the people were complaining that they were missing walks. Why can't we walk? And the government was saying that they are protecting their lives. And there were lots of things on TV. Thank you for staying home. Thank you for other ones for keeping our older ones. So it was a mixed situations and feelings. Some people felt pretty sure about that. Okay, I cannot leave. And that was organized delivery of food to those people. But there were lots of people who were really for the health issue, for some other things. They could be killed from other things, not only from the COVID. And at the end, they were opening a little, just letting them go out early in the morning to shop, which was kind of disturbing because there were then big queues of the people in front of the shops about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then they open some 1 or 2 hours daily for them to walk. And then during some weekends and during the religious holidays and the 1st of May, which is also the big holiday in Serbia, Workers' Day, we had kind of complete curfews for 2 or 3 days. We couldn't go out. I don't know. It was pretty strict. But at the end, we didn't have a lot of victims. I think, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but it is about 286 people died from COVID. And now we are testing more, which is good. And the numbers today, the state of emergency is finished on 8th of May. They proclaimed. The parliament met, the parliament met at the beginning of May. So they somehow gave the power of the law to all decrees of the government. They, I don't know, they overpowered those decrees. And they dismissed this state of emergency. and now we are just having some other things that are dealing with the people in the all homes for all people, and pretty much everything is normal now. Everything is kind of normal.
And even legally speaking, this is now, the state of emergency has been lifted, and
Yes.
the procedures are going on in a normal way. But during the emergency, sorry.
No, it's okay. Ask me the question.
During the emergency, as a judge, how has the COVID-19 impacted the way the courts functioned? Were there limitations? Were they closed, or were they assigned to particular cases? How did it work out?
No, it was pretty good. We didn't have any kind of COVID incident in the courts, and the courts were not closed for citizens, for the claims or whatever. There was an act issued. There was a special decree from the government how are we to work in institutions and things like that. They were pushing online work from the home whenever it can be. So it was, for example, I'm in the Supreme Court. I don't have to be present, so I worked at home. I didn't go to my work, and like Supreme Court was kind of, we didn't have to go there, and the majority of judges didn't have to go there. But the courts, the High Judicial Council, following this decree, issued the kind of guidelines for the courts. Then it was spread to the president of the courts, saying which cases are having priority, where of the priority. So, like in the criminal cases, all cases where we have detained people, they were just going on. If you have like you have to call them, you have the trial, if they are detained. Some people were released from the detention on those trials. And then there were cases that there are two criminal offenses that are connected with the state of emergency. If you are breaking the state of emergency, if you are breaking the degrees, not respecting them, then you are committing the crime. So those cases also had a priority. So they were going on, and some kind of petty offenses connected with that. And that issue that was kind of problematic was that at one moment from the Ministry of Justice, there was kind of recommendation that we do online Skype trials because the detainees were in detention, and so because the COVID and things like that. So of course it was not possible to do it by the recommendation of the Ministry of Justice, and actually in our criminal code we have provision that we can go on trial without defendant, but only if he is not capable to come, if the state cannot, if he is run away or whatever. So it was not that situation. And then the High Judicial Council, few days of this recommendation, also gave some guidelines. But before that, there was a decree of the government which had a kind of power, decree of government saying that we can go with the online trials in the priority cases. And then the High Judicial Council said that those priority cases are only the cases connected with the COVID situation, with the breaking the decree on the COVID. So we had a government decree on that, which was something inter-law decision. So we didn't have time, and we didn't change the criminal procedure, and I think that there is no need to change criminal procedure. So there were a few crimes, there were a few trials that were done on that way, and the Chamber of Lawyers protested, and they said that it's not under the Human Rights Convention, under the fair trial, and they refused to go on some of those trials, so they were delayed. And there were some trials that they were held on that way, that the accused person, but only for those two criminal offenses connected with the with breaking the rules of emergency state. And so they were in the detention, they were connected with the court, their lawyers were in the courtroom. But for me, as a judge and some kind of, I don't know, expert for fair trials issues, I personally wouldn't have problem with online trials because, as I've heard, they were done in other countries in Europe. But the only problem was that the offender didn't have the contact with the lawyer, mainly. So he could communicate with him online. He was in a courtroom. So there was this presumption of a good defendant, that they couldn't really rely on that. So that's problematic that they were not there. So at the end, the lawyers refused to go there, and somehow, and I don't know. And what was good, and Massimo, I can continue because that's all connected with the judiciary.
Yes, absolutely.
The government also brought, I think it was good, brought the decree that they kind of suspended all the appeal terms for appeal, So during the COVID, they were suspended. So when we count now if they were on time, they are on time, because the courts were not in the full function. So all those trials that were held, there were about 70, 80 maybe trials. I'm not sure about the numbers. During the state of emergency, the appeal process will be going on now, so we'll see what will happen.
And there's not going to run the statute of limitation. The prescription is going to be frozen. Yeah, that's good for the fight against impunity, because otherwise, that's what's going on. It's actually very interesting to see that the rare attempts at online trials. From our side, we have seen those attempts, but still at the level of test in the United Kingdom. With certain platforms to try actually to allow for the confidential talk with the lawyer. And so it's a challenging thing. And I know that the ICJ actually has produced some guidance on the situation of courts during COVID, and they have been updated. I take this advantage this time just to announce to the viewers that they have been updated with actual reference to the impact on online trials. Do you have, in relation to the COVID-19 pandemics in Serbia, in terms of human rights protections, just a bit to conclude, what do you think was where the human rights that were more affected, or maybe the groups that were more impacted by this crisis?
Yeah, I think that what was problematic and what we still don't know much about is this issue of migrants. And I think it's the problem of all Europe. Everybody closed up, all the borders were closed. And I think that's kind of a gray zone for all Europe, not just for Serbia, the situation of migrants. And I don't know really how we will deal with that. And now I can read that they are just stuck on some borders and they were trying to go through. And in Serbia, we still, which was good, we didn't have lots of migrants at that moment in Serbia. So they were all, as other citizens, in campuses. They could move around the campuses and walk when it was allowed to walk, but there were some problems because some of them still were trying to escape, still were trying to go out, but not much that we heard about, and not much that it was written in the media. But I think that is the most vulnerable, that is the vulnerable group. And also, like, I don't know, the other, I think that was the most vulnerable group in Serbia. And somehow, when it was well organized, I have to say, from the state, somehow for the vulnerable groups, old people living alone, children on the street, the poor children that are homeless. they organized somehow also things for them, and there were people coming to the home, bringing the food and everything. So it's, I don't know, but people complained a lot. The people over 65, they complained a lot about the freedom of movement, that it was, kind of forbidden to them, and that was issue. And I don't know, maybe I think it was like that in Spain also, and in Italy, that
Yeah.
the age limit was trigger for this decree. So I don't know that if we save them or not,
Look, what's happened? Yeah, we need time to assess all the measures, because in countries that have been different. In Italy, it actually affected everyone and all ages. In other countries, there were limitations based on age, and that's a discussion where there was discrimination in terms of age. But you're absolutely right when you speak about migrants as an affected group and throughout Europe, and this being a European problem. I think COVID-19 showed once again, because we are having the discussion for the last 10 or 20 years, that we need a European solution. We found actually in this discussion that was interesting to see that the public health need also to regularize migrants, as Portugal was at the forefront to actually regularize all migrants so that they could access the hospitals, and there wouldn't be migrants irregular that would hide and therefore not be able to be tested.
I know. And the problem of Serbia is that Serbia is not the country of their dreams, it's not the country where they want to stay, it's the country
Exactly.
they want to go through, and so it's problematic because they're just focused to go. And then the other issue, which was kind of, pictured this COVID for me, is that at the beginning, this kind of, there is solidarity, European or not, like Serbia is not a part of European Union, and are we going to get help or not, and from who are we going to get help, are we going to give the help, so we were trying to give help to the others, and then at the end, all those kind of sayings from the country, from Europe, or we will keep our resources. Then there was a big problem about getting the medical equipment, those masks, and everybody was crazy about the masks and scarves. And now I think it will be also the issue in all countries about the public procurement. How did we buy it? Because it seems like it was some big black market, world big black market where everybody was chipping and stealing from each other. That's how it seems like it was. So I think that I don't know. I think that in the future we will get to know how it functioned, whether we had enough solidarity or not, how those medical cares or supplies were bought, and I don't know. It was the issue, but at that time you just think, okay, shall I get my mask? Or I got my mask, it's great, from the friend, or they're there. And the government was trying to, they were trying to raise up the prices, which we at the end kind of stopped, because at the beginning it was 5 dinars, for example, and then when the COVID came, it was 100 dinars or more. So it's like, everybody was trying to get something from the COVID. Yes.
It's interesting how we see this pattern even in Switzerland, even in Italy, we saw that pattern.
I know.
And we start to see now the situation is going down. Is in Italy, there are now investigations starting on a former head of the House of Representatives who actually had a company who brought sanitary equipment in a way that appears not to be clear. And I think this speaks a lot to the real need there is, even stronger this time, of the rule of law and of the fight against impunity. And, because now everyone is focusing on the pandemics, but we need really to have the structures of the state strong so that people don't take advantage of this and we don't find ourselves exploited and frauded, basically.
It brings us to this basic bed in the people, how to get something for myself, which luckily not all of us have, but then it comes everywhere. It doesn't depend. That's what I learned from Serbia. It doesn't depend really on the state of democracy or something. When you see, that's why I say, some things like this civil war that we had and some kind of very bad things that happened in Serbia, I always say to my friends, just open your eyes, bring your antennas up. It can happen everywhere, believe me. It's just a matter of situation, and none of us is protected, you know, we are just fragile under this monster of COVID-19. And in general, I think that when we look at the numbers at the end, it was not so bad in Serbia. Somehow we were protected, the measures were strict, but then the majority of people measuring whether it was good, or when we talk about democracy, then the majority of people we say, but that was efficient, you know. We don't have a lot of infected, we don't have lots of dead people, so you know the people, when it comes to the life and unexpected enemy, unknown enemy, they are somehow they will stay and listen, and that's also in the nature of the people. Okay, let's be disciplined, cover our ears, you know, and see how we'll get out of that. And it's on the state. And what was good, you know, that was surprisingly good for me, that we had always enough food in the stores. There was no, you know, lack of anything. I mean, people were buying toilet papers, same in Serbia at the beginning, but not so much as in America, I have to say. It was not so much, not at all. So at the end, any other questions?
No, I think actually, I think we summarized and we get to the point, actually, of seeing that we need our work more than ever. We need really to be there to check against abuses and to check against the measures to ensure that all the human rights are protected, which means also the right to health in a really efficient way. So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for having shown us the reality of Serbia in our pattern of European and global countries. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we will go back in some time to see how it's going. And with that, I greet you and I greet everyone. And to our next update. And in the meantime, please stay safe and watch out also for the rule of law and your rights. Goodbye.
Thank you, Massimo. Goodbye.